Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Hello and welcome to another Fat Weight Loss live recipe video. Today I've got a whole bunch of really cool things set up, and I've got a real camera now in front of me. I'm not just using my phone. And I've got a computer here so I can see the comments, and I can sort of see myself a little bit live, so I can see YouTube, we are live, and Facebook, we are also live. So if you can hear me, if you can see me, then I want you to give this video a bunch of thumbs up, because it's a pretty big miracle that this has been able to happen. And I'm sorry it's a little bit late because it was a little bit hard to get started. But we are both live on Facebook and YouTube right now, so this is really awesome. We've got a whole bunch of people joining in. What I want you to do is I want you to comment where you are from. I'm from Brisbane here in Australia. It's currently 10:30 in the morning for me, so we're running about half an hour behind schedule, but that's all right. That's totally okay. We've got a crew here that's doing all of the the video and everything, which is fantastic. I'm going to be checking out the comments down on the computer here below. So if you have any questions about the recipe that I'm making at the moment, then definitely let me know in the comments. So we have Ellen, we have Sheila, we have Teresa, we have Raul, we have Ada, we have a whole bunch of really awesome stuff. So that's on YouTube, and over on Facebook we've got Berlin, we've got Melanie, we've got a whole bunch of people joined in, and there's a whole bunch of people watching. So I think we should probably get straight to the recipe. So if you can hear me, what's going through here, maybe I need to. If you can hear what's going through this mic here, then smash that like button. If you are getting a whole bunch of weird sounds or something, there's a bad echo. Okay, sound is echoing badly. You have bad echo. Okay, is the echo sound gone now? Is the echo, is it better? Is that better? Okay, yep, I had to turn down one of the settings, so that's cool, that's all right. The echo is now, all right, so Facebook, can you hear the echo? Is the echo gone a little bit now? Is that better? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so we are all on the same page. Sorry about the confusion. This is the first time we've sort of done this. So we've got some lights, we've got everything, which is great. But today we are making cornbread. Now, I know that Thanksgiving is coming up for America and a whole bunch of different stuff, but I recently did a whole bunch of testing for keto bread. And I came across a few different, parameters that I think are going to work really well for cornbread in particular. Now, corn is not keto. Corn in any form is really not keto. Even baby corn is like, in small amounts it is, but so I'm not using any corn at all. And I am using a whole bunch of different things that may give you the same type of texture and a similar taste, but it's not going to taste exactly like corn. It's going to have a similar texture, but we are on the ketogenic diet. We sort of have to make do with what we've got. So we've got a whole bunch of people tuning in from Mississippi, greetings from Michigan. A whole bunch of people are excited to catch the live. We have Diane is in here. Diane from Facebook. She is a wonderful on Facebook. She comments all the time. So give a like out to Diane. All right, so let's get started. I've got two bowls here. Now I don't have two camera angles, so I hope you can see what I'm doing here. I have two bowls. One of them is going to be the eggs, and one of them is going to be the flour. So actually, I probably should get a slightly bigger bowl. I do have a slightly bigger bowl in here. So we have two different types of bowls. These two bowls here. One's going to be for the flour, one's going to be for the eggs. It's going to be pretty similar to the keto bread, but there's a whole bunch of changes that I'm going to make that is going to actually create a very similar texture to cornbread. Now, I went to a restaurant just up the road here and they serve cornbread and a whole bunch of American style foods, and I think this recipe is pretty close. It is pretty damn close, which is awesome. So thanks for sharing. Ireland, hello. Is there anyone from Australia, anyone from here in Australia, or maybe even Brisbane? Let me know in the comments. This is fantastic. Okay, so what we're going to do to start off with is we are going to get 7 eggs. Now, this cornbread doesn't taste eggy because we are going to reduce the egg yolks a little bit. So we're going to use 7 eggs, but we're going to leave out 2 of the yolks. So let's go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, that egg is not coming out. We're gonna have to switch to the backup eggs. The backup eggs. All right, here we go. So there's a whole bunch of eggs in there. And I'm gonna leave 2 of the egg yolks in this bowl, which is a smaller bowl. I'll put that one on the side here. Okay, so let's get cracking in this one. So we have, you get around, buddy. Adelaide, South Australia, Albury, Perth, Hollywood. This is awesome. This is so great. All right, so I'm going to crack an egg white into one bowl. We're going to crack an egg white into there like that. Has anyone mastered the act of trying to get egg yolks or like crack an egg with one hand? I think that's a pretty good skill to have, but it's also one that's like, it's a bit of a underrated superpower, because being able to crack eggs with one hand is awesome if you're trying to do a whole bunch of things all at once. But look at us, we are live streaming, we are doing a video, we're making cornbread, and it's keto. So I think that's enough multitasking for the time being. I don't really want to be picking eggshells out of this for the moment. So here's the most important part. Now I'm just chucking eggshells into my sink because that's where I can. But it's best to have a waste bowl. You can use like a large bowl, anything that you've got, and you just put any of the waste in there, and it makes it heaps easier to actually clean up afterwards. So we've got a whole bunch of eggs going in here. What are your tips on making keto bread? Have you ever made keto bread before? Is cornbread something that you've really wanted to try for a long time, but haven't really mustered up the courage to get a particular ingredient right, or whatever it is? Today we are doing, those are the 2 egg yolks I'm leaving out, so it's going to taste a little bit less eggy, and this is the final mixture here. So what happens now is I have egg yolks, 5 egg yolks and 7 egg whites, and we're going to beat them with this beater here. Now, the power cable's a little bit close, but I think that's going to be okay. So we're going to beat those in there like that. Now, I don't want to beat them too much to start with, because when you have overbeaten eggs, when you let them sit for a little while, they don't turn out that well. Mostly because you've beat them and then you've let them just sit. So if you can still hear me, sorry about the really loud noise here. All right, so we're not gonna super mix them together too much there, but that's sort of what it looks like. So that consistency, you've mixed it for about 30 seconds, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get half a cup of butter. So I've got my half cup measuring thing here. So we've got half a cup of butter, and that is going in there. So I've actually melted this butter, and so you can melt it in the microwave, you can melt it on the stove, whatever it is, but make sure it's all melted. You don't want big bits and small bits, and you just want it all melted. So you want to pour that in whilst you're mixing the eggs. And like this. So it's going around like that. That looks pretty good to me. What we also have is 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. Now, you can use 2 different types. This is extra virgin coconut oil, which has a coconut taste, and this is a coconut cooking oil, which doesn't have a coconut taste, but it is refined. So if you are wanting the coconut taste, or if you want the whole foods and you want to go down the coconut taste route, then that's totally fine. Use extra virgin organic coconut oil. If you don't, then use the coconut cooking oil. But for today, I don't mind the coconut taste in this. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of it in here. Now, this coconut oil is pretty, soft to start with, so it doesn't really need melting too much. But 2 tablespoons is going in there like that. And, ooh, I haven't done one of these videos in ages. I used to do these videos all the time on Facebook. I'm not sure if anyone remembered, but I started off doing the chocolate chip cookie recipe online. These were all live videos. I was doing cheesecake, I was doing ice cream, I was doing a whole bunch of different stuff. So this is just me getting back into it with a little bit more of a professional stance. But let's mix the coconut oil into this batter, like this. So we have someone from Idaho has joined in. Jones from Amaretti sells it. Run Renee, run, I'm from Mackay too. We've got a whole bunch of people from Mackay. Woo! Go Queensland. This is going to be fun. So, all right, this is the eggs that are in there with the butter, with the coconut oil. Now, the other part to this is that we are going to be using coconut flour. So the reason why we're using coconut flour is it sort of gives a bit of a crumbly texture as opposed to just a really dense, fine almond flour bread. So using coconut flour is what you want to be doing with this. Now, If you are using almond flour, if you don't like coconut flour and you're using almond flour, I would recommend using 2 cups of almond flour. But today we are using only 1/4 cup of coconut flour. That is going to be heaps for the entire recipe. Because coconut flour absorbs so much water and so much of the eggs and the butter and the coconut oil, we only need to use 1/4 cup. So what I need to do first though, is that I'm gonna put that aside. And I can probably leave that in there like that actually. And give this a little bit of a wipe up and put that over there. So in this bowl here, I'm going to be mixing the coconut flour with a little bit of baking powder and some gelatin. Now this is the trick to this whole recipe, is that you need to be using gelatin for the recipe. Now I've got 1/4 cup of coconut flour here. Now that goes in there like that. 1/4 cup works perfectly. So it's really not that much. It's really not that much coconut flour. You look at it and you're like, that is not going to make a loaf of coconut bread. And it will, trust me. So 1/4 cup of coconut flour in there. And what else do we have? We have some baking powder. So this baking powder here, you need to make sure you have one without aluminium in it. This one here definitely does not have aluminium in it. The reason why is that if you mix aluminium baking soda with coconut flour and eggs, it will turn green. So if you've ever made coconut flour or coconut bread and it tastes green, then it means your baking powder has aluminium in it, or baking soda, or whatever you're using. So, even in trace amounts, it's going to turn green. So you need to really make sure that it doesn't have any aluminium in it. And you really don't want aluminium in your stuff anyway. So we're going to put about half a teaspoon, or a teaspoon of baking powder in there, like that. So 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now all of the ingredients will be online after I've posted this recipe. It isn't actually on my website yet. I had to do a whole bunch of testing on it to make sure that it was going to be good so that we can do this recipe. So you mix that around like that, and then we have a tablespoon of gelatin. Now the tablespoon of gelatin, and why I don't use anything else, or this is the binding agent for this entire bread. Now, why I use gelatin is because it sort of gives like a really light, fluffy texture, but it's still moist. And gelatin, you can substitute this with xanthan gum or guar gum if you are vegetarian, but gelatin's probably the best one to use in this case. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a teaspoon of gelatin into a mixing jar like that. And this is the brand of gelatin I use, if anyone wants to have a look at that. I'm not sure if you can see that. So getting a good brand of gelatin is pretty important because you don't really want a bad quality one. It's going to contain a whole bunch of weird random stuff. And we have some warm water here. So I've got a little bit of warm water that I'm just going to mix with the gelatin. And we can mix that around. Make sure it's all dissolved really, really well. You don't want to put it in. Some people say aluminum. Americans tend to say aluminum, or I don't know. In Australia, we say aluminium generally. Well, I do. I also say broccoli, but a lot of people say broccoli. And I believe the correct pronunciation is broccoli, not broccoli. So I'm wrong. I'm definitely wrong. But that's all right. You admit that you're wrong and you move on. So that is mixed in there like that. Do you recognize this kitchen? Have you seen any of my videos before? I'm not sure whether you have seen any, but the gelatin in here and this chopping board is famous now on YouTube. Okay, so we have the dry ingredients here. We're going to just mix that together. You can mix it together with whatever you want, but I usually just use cutlery, like a spoon or a fork or something. Get that in there like that. And then we're going to mix the gelatin in there with that as well. So the gelatin will become slightly sticky, but that is okay. So that's going to go in there like that. It's going to become pretty thick. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the eggs that we have here, and I'm going to mix those whilst putting in the dry ingredients like this. That's going in there like that. So we have plenty. Get it off the back of the spoon with the actual electric mixer. That works too. So that's going in there like that. This is going to get mixed around and it starts to get slightly thicker because of the gelatin that's in there, because of the coconut flour, because of a whole bunch of different things. So this is not all that's going in here. We are going to add one more ingredient. No, 2 more ingredients. So that's starting to get a little bit thicker now, which is great. So I'm going to turn that off so that you can actually still hear me. So what's happening in the comments? I do that with the mixer too. Yeah, it's awesome. If you're trying to mix something and you're just like mixing and getting something in there, you just do it at the same time. So I put gelatin in the almond cookies recipe and it gives them a chewy texture. Yeah, definitely. So gelatin is one of the best ones to use if you're going after like a soft, chewy type texture. You can also make a cake with a recipe similar to this, but I'm going to put 1/4 cup of erythritol into this batch as well. 1/4 cup. Where did my 1/4 cup go? Oh, there. 1/4 cup of erythritol is going in there like that. So I use the So Nourished one here. This So Nourished erythritol, unfortunately it's actually not available in Australia. They sent it to me, so Rami and Vicky sent it to me, and the Australian government saw that there was a few bags of white powder, granuled white powder essentially. So the Australian government attached a letter to the box that was being sent to me and said, "We've opened your package for you, just letting you know to make sure that it's not a whole bunch of drugs." And you know, that's what you get with erythritol. I know that Vanessa Spina, when she moved to Croatia, no, when she moved to Czech, sorry, that she took a whole bunch of sweeteners over there with her, and she got there and she was like, "I have a whole bunch of powdered white granuled ingredients in my bag. What happens if they pull me over?" So technically don't take erythritol out of the country with you, because you're probably going to get pulled up and say, "Look, what's this white substance that you've got here?" But so here we go. There, that's going together now. Now that's a knife. Well, it's funny you say that actually. So to be the true Australian, what is it? This one and this one. So a lot of people, you know, have these types of knives in their kitchen. It's like a, you know, little paring knife. They're really awesome, but that is not a knife. This is a knife. This is a knife. This one's huge. It's like, it's so big and it's so insanely sharp. So shout outs to Global for these knives. They are fantastic. I've had them for a very long time. But you know, anyway, that was the Crocodile Dundee reference. Oh, and also, when you work from home and when you cook in the kitchen, you can wear whatever you want. So I'm not in buttless chaps, but I'm definitely not in black shorts. So, all right, so as you can see, this has started to thicken up a lot right now. We have, so that's pretty thick. Look how thick that is. You can sort of see that it's definitely thickened up. It's got like a bit of a hardened top on it. And you know, this is perfect. This is exactly what you have to do with coconut flours. You have to let it rest for a little while. Otherwise the coconut flour won't absorb the flour. And then when it's in the actual oven, it's not going to rise, or it's not going to do anything really. So we have gelatin in there. We have, let's go over the recipe again. So we have gelatin, a teaspoon of gelatin. We have a teaspoon of baking powder. We have 1/4 cup of coconut flour. We have 7 eggs, or 7 egg whites and 5 egg yolks. And then we have, what else do we have? We have 1/4 cup of erythritol, we have 1/2 cup of butter, and we have 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in there. So I've got this recipe memorized off the back of my hand because I make it so many times now. And this recipe is by far one of my, you know, one of the most important ones for this year. Mainly because Thanksgiving is coming up. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving here in Australia, but you know, this is a great recipe. This is going to be the next best thing for, you know, the next couple of weeks. So I now have to get some baking paper, because when you put this bread into the pan, it can actually get quite sticky on the outside. So to be able to pull it out really easily, what I do is I put baking paper into the actual bread pan. It sort of leaves like that classic I'm not finished look on the front and back, but that's all right. So this is the type of bread pan I'm using. It's about 6 by 9, I believe. I'm not too sure. It doesn't really say on the bottom. No, sorry. It'd be 9 by 4, maybe 9 by 4. It's a small one. So if you look for a bread loaf tin that sort of gets that normal bread loaf that overhauls over the top, this one isn't going to do that, but that's the sort of size that you want. So what else is happening in the comments? Do you need sweetener in the cornbread? Is that normal? Well, cornbread is generally quite sweet. So most cornbread in the States, they add some sort of sweetener, or, you know, corn is quite sweet in itself, which is why corn isn't actually allowed on the ketogenic diet. Even, you know, baby corn, it's a gray area, but it is a vegetable, you know, so who knows? But we're just sticking with the coconut flour and all this sort of stuff for now. What other comments are there? Can't wait to make it. I have a friend who puts chopped broccoli and cheddar cheese in their cornbread. I might have to try that with your, ooh, I can't read the rest of that. Standard loaf pan. Yep, standard loaf pan. Don't tell Southerns that cornbread is sweet. Yeah, so I don't know the ins and outs of cornbread, but is it somewhere that's sweet and some places that it's not? Is that something that it's sort of kosher, or is it you just make cornbread and you don't think it's sweet, but it's actually really sweet? And yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to pour this into the pan here like this. That is going in there. So it all comes out really easily. You can get the rest out of it, but today I'm not too worried about that. So this is what it looks like in the actual bread pan. You can't actually see this. What if I do this? Hang on. This is what it looks like in here. And it's really hard to show you something that's going to pour off like this, but you know, this is going to go in the oven for about 35 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius or 355 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the reason, that is the long cooking time, is, you know, to make sure that the eggs and everything is well risen and it's cooked all the way through, and it sort of has a little bit of a crispy outer edge. So I hope you liked this live video. I really enjoyed making this video live for you guys. If there is a video that you really want me to make next time, or a recipe that you want me to make next time, please let me know in the comments below, because this has been awesome. This has been really, really fun. I love doing live recipes like this, and I think I'm going to keep doing them every single week because I stopped doing them for a while, and I think that, you know, if you can do these things, if you can do this sort of thing live, then why not? Why not do it? So again, thank you so much. I'm going to be putting this in the oven, and I will put the recipe up a little bit later on so that you can see exactly what it looks like, and you can see all of the proper ingredients and everything. So it's going to be on the website generally by the end of today. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your for watching. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Mum to 4. Thanks, Run Renee. Thank you we've got so many people here watching, which is fantastic, which is really, really awesome. Thanks, Deborah. Thank you to, thanks, Ada. Thanks, thanks everyone. Thank you so much for joining in, and I will see you same time next week, same bat channel, same recipe, no, different recipe. And I will see you then. Thank you.